I'm always on the fence about making videos like this because obviously the people that I make the videos about don't like it. I try not to like, I don't know. I try to be fair to everybody and assume that there's real reasons for any of these things happening. But what I'm going to show you in this video today is frankly unacceptable behavior. So before we even show it, let me just explain to you a little bit about what I've been experiencing in Mythic Plus. In season 3 and really season 2, 1, 3, everything from Shadowlands, I was experiencing a lot of disbanding. It's pretty normal in the pugging world to people to just have absolutely no care about the person's group that they're signing up to. They're basically just hopping from group to group until they get what they want, which is usually success. All they're really chasing is like Mythic Plus score and whatever. This is a normal way to play and live your life. People are very goal oriented at times, but I grew up in a version of the game where like the interactions along the way mattered, and that's part of the reason I love the game so much is because I get to see potentially funny or interesting interactions with other human beings. But the whole leaving thing is a real kick in the teeth when you know that, because I really cherish that. I have cherished it for a very long time, but it's now gotten to a point where the people in the game are actually the worst part about the game every time I log on. Very repeatedly the case, and in season 4, it's really the case. I actually haven't had more fun in a season in a long time. I really enjoy season 4. I really enjoy some of the dungeons too. But there's one big problem, and that is Upper Karazhan. Now, if you look at the stats, it is not the hardest dungeon by success rate. But the problem for pugging in Upper Karazhan is that it actually requires 5 players to all do something. And that's pretty unlike most of the other dungeons in the game right now. So you see your fair share of disbands with season 1 and 2 and 3, where like people are just, they're not up to the challenge, so they just kind of give up. But now in season 4, it's really coming to a head because you can suck and get carried in a lot of the dungeons, but as you might notice from the spreadsheet, 80% of the keys that we enter in Upper Karazhan are a disband, and that is because of this problem. And the way I'm looking at it is that people are not learning. They're not encouraged to learn, I think is the bigger issue. But in multiple keys this week and recent weeks, we do Upper Karazhan, and the group is just generally clueless. We actually had it right before the key I'm going to show you, where the healer was actually just DPSing the entire time through Medivh, and nobody got any healing whatsoever, and people died immediately. Like, I'm talking about 30 seconds of the fight, there was 2 people dead. The healer's just full DPSing, which is ironic because normally I would want to see that. And so it makes me wonder like what the reality is about some of these players' expectations for the keys, because it doesn't seem like they're aligned with what the game is offering. But I do think that a big problem is the season. It's extremely easy, and even though it's very fun, that's why it's fun, but it's also why it's not fun, because the players are getting lulled to sleep, especially healers. We see this all the time with healers, but it's almost like everything that's been wrong with Mythic Plus from the first time I ever pugged to right today, like everything melded into one person really. So I'll show you the footage and then we'll talk a little bit more. You can't punish people leaving because there are legitimate reasons to leave. And there's times when groups don't want to continue as a group, like all 5 people agree. That's why yeah, we need this trash, by the way. That's why I've started calling it mutual disband, because I'm trying to make it a little bit more fair, because I know there's times when the whole group does want to stop. Could be like a vote to kick. And so that's not possible right now because that's not how groups are formed. So they'd have to completely change how groups are formed for Mythic Plus in general. And yeah, obviously we don't necessarily want them to do that. Oh my god, did we really aggro this again? I'm so done with this dungeon. I think there's no option though. I have to do it. Who's leaving now? Like, what is this nonsense going on in this key? So let's walk through what happens here, because this is a very unique situation. It's one that really could only present itself in Upper Kara as well. Is these stupid small platforms, and we're choosing to pull a kind of a strange route. Old me would never have considered something like this, but this really isn't that complicated. Certainly not enough for what happens to happen. But there's actually more than just the problem that we identified in the key. As you see, the druid just runs off and just does whatever the hell he wants. I get it. Everybody does the dungeon a little bit different, but I don't know. It kind of bothers me when people just decide to go and do whatever they want as DPS. He just runs by, we aggro this trash, and the trash actually just continues to run down there. At first, I don't even understand understand like why it's running down there, but then it starts to dawn on me because I see the druid all the way down there. So he's completely absent on this pull one way or the other. Then we come down here and get this one here that's going to get turned into another dreadlord. I like doing this, especially on tyrannical weeks, even on lower keys, because it's very like, good to get extra damage from Medivh and even the second boss. But then this is where things start to get really weird. You can see this guy off on his own. Another player's just, like I said, completely AFK. Doesn't even matter. We got a ringer from the stream, and that's Wizard Tamer on his hunter. He's coming in. He's going to carry this key. It's a double upgrade. We are perfectly fine here. You might notice the only actual death in the dungeon is one person, and it is actually the shaman. I didn't include that, but I'm pretty sure he made two ridiculous mistakes prior as well. I'm 99% sure he pulled one of those damaged Goliaths or whatever those are at the beginning. You know, you could run through the dead center of them. He just like runs through them and doesn't even have any concern that he aggroes them and just runs up to us, makes us fight them. And then he dies to the ads on the last part of the first boss. To be fair, I think that one you could partially blame on me because the boss was pretty much dead and I didn't actually corral the add-in properly. Been having a lot of trouble with that on Brewmaster for some reason. But still, he gets hit by the avoidable mechanic and then dies to the ad that's on him. So, okay, we're not going to knock him for those necessarily. Those are run-of-the-mill mistakes. But then this kind of stuff is what really bothers me. So you see he's running around the back here and he's starting to take damage. So the only thing I could think of is he's getting hit by the barrage from the bats. I don't know. I really wish I could see it from his perspective to understand exactly what happens here because it's so bizarre looking. But of course, that's Mythic Plus in a nutshell. So then he runs through and gets put to sleep. See, his character's asleep, so he basically probably runs through a puddle that was left up there. I mean, again, to be fair, there's very good possibility that there wasn't really too many directions he could run, but he runs right into it and gets put to sleep, and then he dies. So presumably he gets put to sleep and then gets killed by the barrage. Now, again, I'm not exactly sure. It's hard to tell, but his little dot here makes it look like he might have accidentally aggroed the pyromancer, and all of these mistakes are completely moot. The funny part is then he sits here dead for quite a while. That's like a good 20 seconds. Then he chooses to onk. See, he's still up there, so he didn't release, he just onked. And now we can see the pyromancer has been aggroed and he dies again. This has been a real problem for me. I don't really understand how difficult it is to not aggro these pyromancers. Again, it's one of those things that I should probably be routing around, but this seems like a really good route. And then the ultimate problem is that he leaves after this. So the rest of the video is going to be about the fact that he leaves, because from what we see here, at absolute best, he's lost. He's never seen anybody do this before. And I mean, we're 9 weeks into the season. I guess it's not really that popular, but the only reason I'm even doing this is because like week 2 of the season, a bunch of DPS basically said, you absolutely have to get these extra dreadlords for Medivh. It's just way easier. So I made an entire route around it, and it's actually a great route. It's 100% count. There's a couple small skips that are made, but it's basically just moving your character, and then we use 2 invis pots, and it's super easy. Very, very simple route, not a problem at all. Even ran it multiple times on this character in these lower keys. The problem is the pyromancer keeps getting aggroed because people are just completely unaware of what's happening here. The guy aggroes something he shouldn't aggro, potentially twice. I still don't know how he dies the first time, but he's totally bewildered, and then he gets frustrated and leaves, right? That's the absolute best case scenario for this guy. We're trying to be fair to the guy. If that's actually what happened, well, you know, it's unfortunate. But realistically, it's probably somewhere in between. There's probably a little bit more malice to it, a little bit less care. And my big issue right now is that this is just a very endemic problem of the Keystone system. We're actually talking about it in the background footage of this key. One more plea I'm going to make here for the community to finally stand up and demand something from Blizzard. All these posts about people being unhappy about things, well, this is an actual problem with the game's focus. This is something that just should not be the way it is. Blizzard allows people to do whatever they want. The Keystone holder is the only one punished, and these guys are able to just go from key to key with absolutely no repercussions. They're not learning from their mistakes. They're not apologetic for their failures, and they have absolutely no care in the world for anybody but themselves. So at the end of the day, what I'm showing you is somebody who is willing to leave a very, very easy key. And again, because at worst, this guy just got frustrated by himself doing some dumb things, probably blaming me for them. We also have another guy who's just entirely AFK, but we won't even talk about that. And this is kind of just a microcosm of everything that's going on with pugging keys right now. Dragonflight is on its way out, and they have the potential to solve this. For me, I could go on hours about how they can solve it, but they need to add an incentive for actually finishing keys, or at worst, they need to add some recourse for the key holder. There's absolutely no reason that this guy leaving my key in the way he did, there's no reason that my key should go down for this. This is just so silly. This guy leaves for Absolutely no reason. We can still upgrade this key. That guy could die 5 more times and we can still finish this key in time. It's not even remotely out of time. This is so freaking easy. I really do believe that this is one of the easiest timers ever in the game. A couple dungeons this season are so forgiving, and this is absolutely one of them. So these people who do this dumb stuff and then they just can't possibly face the reality that they messed up, they're going to leave and probably blame other people for it. They're making pugging so difficult. Please, Blizzard, I am begging you now, begging you. I'm trying my best to help this game. Please do something about this. This cannot continue, man. This kind of player has to own his mistake. Just admit we made a mistake. I could make a mistake. You could make a mistake. We could all make mistakes and still succeed. You signed up for a key for a reason, right? What was that reason? Was your reason to play perfectly and never make a mistake? I highly doubt it. You came to get the credit for completing the dungeon, whether that's for the vault, whether that's for the gear, whether that's for the score. We're going to get all three of those. So just please stop completely having no regard for the key holder. You're making pugging a nightmare. Nobody wants to list their key. Nobody wants to deal with this kind of player. On a 15, it is just so unacceptable. This is so freaking easy. It couldn't be any easier. Please, and stop wasting so many other people's time. Please. The game will be better. I promise you.